Now we comes to the chapter 7. We want to give you an outline of this book. We comes to the chapter 7. Title chapter 7 is Theory of Moral Life. Theory of the moral life contains the Eightfold Noble Paths. Therefore, the first paragraph is talking about the right view under the theory of moral life. Right view in Pali is called samadhi. Samadhi, right. Right means whatever which can lead us to the attainment of Nirvana or the cessation of suffering. The Eightfold Noble Paths are called right view, right thought, and so on. The right is put before these 8 factors because these 8 factors can help us attain Nirvana. Right view is emphasized if we want to practice the moral life. If we don't have the right view, we may go astray. What does right view mean? Right view means why we want to live the moral life. We should have a correct understanding of the moral life. The 3 foundational principles of the theory of moral life. The 3 foundational principles means the very basic principles of the theory of moral life. Why we have to practice the moral life? There are 3 foundational principles. The 4th foundational principle is called Dhamma, Kamavada. Vada means knowledge or the science. Kama means the action. And basically, it is the volitional action or the volitional construction. It is our intention. Our intention decides whether our speech, the physical behavior as wholesome or unwholesome. Therefore, the Kamavada is very important. Kamavada means the knowledge of why we speak in a certain way or why we behave in a certain way. And the karma is based on the volitional construction. Volitional construction means our intention. This is the first foundational principle of the theory of moral life. The second foundational principle is called Kriya Vada. Vada, knowledge or the science of Kriya. In Pali word Kriya. Kriya means there will be some result from our present karma. What we do, what we speak, will have a corresponding result in the future. This is called Kriya Vada, the second foundational principle. And the third foundational principle is called Viriya. Kriya, K-I-R-I-Y-A, Veda, V-A-D-A. And Viriya, V-I-R-I-Y-A, Viriya Veda. Viriya means effort. If we want to practice moral life in order to attain Nirvana, Nibbana, we have to put effort in our practice of the moral life. The moral life consists of three aspects from the very beginning Shida, and then we should practice samatha to attain samadhi, and then we practice vipassana to develop our wisdom. The three foundational principles of the theory of moral life is the characteristic of the Buddhist moral life. Other religions also espouse that people should practice moral life, but other religions don't have these three foundational principles. In Buddhism, these three principles are emphasized. Karma, Veda, Karma, Veda. And here karma means the intention, our inner intention. When our inner intention ripens, it will goes to speech and the physical action. The second one, Kriya Veda. It means we practice moral life in order to have a wholesome result. And the ultimate result is the attainment of Nibbana, the cessation of suffering. The cessation of suffering is the meaning of Nibbana. Nibbana doesn't mean the cessation of our life. Nibbana doesn't mean the cessation of our entity. Because in Buddhism, we don't have the concept of entity. So Nibbana doesn't mean the cessation of life or entity. We have to understand this meaning very clearly. When an arhat attains Nibbana, or even when an arhat passes away, he attains the so-called Pari-Nibbana. It doesn't mean that he ends his life. He ceases his entity. It doesn't mean that. It only means that he has no more mental defilements. He has no more suffering. And the suffering means no freedom. Suffering means no freedom. And the suffering is the opposite of the dependent arising. When whatever is originated from the theory of dependent arising, then something is not liberated. This is conditioned by other factors. So there's no freedom at all. When one attains Nibbana, it means that one attains complete liberation from the mental defilements of greed, anger, and the delusion. In Buddhism, we have to know these three foundational principles of the theory of moral life. Therefore, we can attain Nirvana, and we have the efficacy of practice moral life. Definition of karma as volition. Volition is a psychological term. It is our intention. Before we speak or before we act, usually we have an intention. We generate intention, and then we developed this intention, this volitional construction to speech and behavior. Usually, our intention comes from our latent tendency, or we may call it as unconsciousness. We have consciousness and unconsciousness. Volitional construction is our consciousness, and the consciousness comes from unconsciousness, or we may call it subconsciousness, from the deeper level of our mind. Usually, we have the latent tendencies in our mind, and it will emerge or appear to the conscious level. We call it volitional construction. When we have volitional construction, we will go further to speech or action. Criteria of moral evaluation. Criteria means the standards, how to judge an action or a speech as wholesome or unwholesome. It depends on our volitional construction. And the criteria means if we have a wholesome intention to benefit ourselves and to benefit other people, then it is wholesome. In Buddhism, it's called kusala. Kusala means wholesome. And akusala means unwholesome. If our intention is good to us and to other people, then it is called kusala. It is called wholesome volition. And when our intention will bring harm to ourselves and other people, it is called akusala, or unwholesome volition. So the criteria of moral evaluation means whether beneficial or not beneficial to ourselves and others. And what does the benefit mean in Buddhism? Benefit in Buddhism means the development of our mind, of our wisdom, in order to understand the reality of our life and even the whole universe. And this to the attainment of prajna or panya in Pali. So we can attain Nibbana. Is everything due to past karma? In Buddhism, we say no. Everything is dependently originated, but past karma is only one cause, is only one factor. Our life is not completely determined by past karma. And of course, our life is not determined by external factor or by the ghost or by the God. No, not at all. Our life, everything is dependently originated. Our past karma is one of the so many factors. This is very important. We should not have the karmic determinationism. We have the determinationism by God or by our past karma. And of course, there is a theory called indeterminationism. In Buddhism, we don't accept the idea of indeterminationism because we have the theory of dependent origination. And in Buddhism, we also doesn't accept the idea of God determinationism and karmic determinationism because our life is dependently originated. There are so many factors to influence our life, the whole universe. Is there a mechanical correlation between karma and its result? Mechanical means certain or definite. Is there a definite correlation between karma and the result? This question means whether the past karma will decide our present life or will determine a certain thing. In Buddhism, the answer is no, because everything is changing. We can change our life, even if we did bad karma in our previous life or in our pastime in the past. But if we can confess that we did bad things and that we can change our mind, then we can follow the Buddha's path to practice moral life. Then our past karma would not result in a bad effect in this present time. There is no mechanical correlation between karma and its result. As we mentioned, that there are three foundational principles of the theory of moral life. The first one is karma, vata. The second one is kiriya, vata. And the third one is viriya vata. Viriya vata means effort. If we can make effort to change our mind, to develop our mind, to train our mind, to concentrate our mind, then we can change our course of life from now to the future. The issue of one's own good and other good. There is a comparison between our own good and the others' good, which one is more important. In Buddhism, we say there are four kinds of good. The first one is the individual who pursues neither his own well-being nor others' well-being. Of course, this is the worst. The second one, the individual who pursues others' well-being, but not his own well-being. The person who pursues or who seeks for his own well-being and not other beings, not other people's well-being. This is the third kind of person. And the first kind of person, the last kind of person, last category of person is the individual who pursues his own well-being as well as others' well-being. We understand that the first category of the person who only pursues his own well-being is better than the person who possesses others' well-being, but not his own well-being. Here we have to define the meaning of the well-being. The meaning of well-being here doesn't refer to the physical or the property or the materials, but rather means the mental well-being or the mental goodness. In Buddhism, we say we have to train ourselves first, to develop ourselves first, or to establish ourselves first before we can teach other people. Therefore, the goodness or the well-being here means our mental training and the mental development. We have to train ourselves first. We have to practice the moral life first before we can teach other people. And of course, if we can pursue our own well-being and the others' well-being, this is the best, the most ideal moral life. The role of knowledge and awareness in the practice of moral life. Here, emphasize the importance of knowledge and awareness. Knowledge and awareness, we can find these two terms in the Eightfold Noble Path. Right view. Right view is a kind of right knowledge and right concentration and right mindfulness is a kind of awareness. Why in the Eightfold Noble Path we have the right view, right thought, and right concentration, right mindfulness. Why? Because the knowledge and awareness play a very important role in the practice of moral life. If we don't have the knowledge and the awareness, then we cannot make sure whether our moral life is moral or even it may be immoral. We have the Kamavata, the Kiriyavata, and the Viriyavata. It means that we should have wisdom. We should know why we practice moral life. This is the role of knowledge and awareness. A moral culture is not separation of the sense faculties. The sense faculties means our six consciousnesses or our six sense organs. Moral culture means development or the practice of moral life. The practice of moral life is not separation. It's not separation of our sense faculties. The Buddha say, happiness comes from happiness. When we practice moral life, if we don't have happiness, then it is no way that we can attain higher level of happiness. Therefore, moral culture is not separation of our sense faculties. The suppression of sense faculties comes from the idea of spiritual eternalism. In some religions, they believe that our spirit or our soul is everlasting. There is an everlasting eternal soul or eternal identity or eternal ego behind our physical body. These kind of ideologies make them to suppress their sense faculty. But in Buddhism, we say no. In Buddhism, we say we have to live a life of middle way. The life of middle way means the Eightfold Noble Path. The Eightfold Noble Path doesn't goes to sensational indulgence, or even not goes to the separation of the sense faculty. Now we'll come to chapter 8. The practice of moral life. First, we have the Noble Eightfold Path. Is it only for monks and nuns? This question raises because some people may say it is only for monks and nuns that the Buddha taught the Noble Eightfold Path. The answer is no. Even we householders have to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. The path factors, in total, there are 8, from the right view to the right thought, to the right livelihood, the right action, right speech, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. In total, there are 8 factors. To follow the path is to internalize the path. The path here refers to the Noble Eightfold Path. What does it mean to follow the path? To follow the path means to put into practice the Eightfold Noble Path. The aim is to internalize the path. To internalize the path means that we can practice the Noble Eightfold Path from our mind automatically, unintentionally. At every time, we can follow the Eightfold Noble Path. This is the meaning of to internalize the path. The 3 levels where a moral evil activates. Here is the psychological explanation of why we have to practice the moral life. 3 levels. 3 levels. We have the deepest level is called latency. In English, it's called latency, or our natural tendency, or our dispositional tendency, which is accumulated from our past time. The deepest level latency level. Then the latency level or the tendencies levels will emerge to the arising all around from the unconsciousness level to the consciousness level. This is the second level. And the obvious level is our speech and our action. Our moral evil has these three kinds of level. The evil, moral evil means greed, hatred, and delusion. Why we have these three levels of moral evil? It is because of we have the concepts of ego. We have the concept of self or the atta. We have the atta. Atta means personal identity, or the ego of I, or the idea of mine, or there is a self in our five counters, in our five aggregates, because we have the concept of self, the concept of ego or entity, or an agent. An agent means that we are true. We have the five aggregates, or we have the physical body and the mind and the mental formation. We consider them as true. Therefore, we have the evil dispositional tendencies in our deep subconsciousness or unconsciousness. Moral discipline, concentration, and wisdom. These three are called the three learnings, or the so-called moral life. Moral discipline is called Shila in Pali, and the concentration is called Sati, Sati concentration in Pali, and the wisdom is called Panya. Panya. Moral discipline consists of many levels, from the so-called five precepts: not killing, not stealing, not adultery, not lying, and not taking intoxication. It's called moral life of the five precepts. And there are also more sophisticated moral discipline. For example, the 8 precepts. And even we have the Samana Sila, or the Bhikkhu Bhikkhuni Sila. They are the so-called four precepts, the 4 precepts. Concentration means sati, sati in Pali. Samadhi. Sati is mindfulness. Samadhi. Samadhi comes from the practice of samatha. Samatha means to concentrate our wandering thoughts on a certain object. For example, if we discover that our mind goes away from our present action or present speech or present situation. Then we concentrate, we try to collect our wandering thoughts to what we are doing now or what we are thinking now. We can develop concentration by means of paying attention to our breathing, in breath and out breath. We just concentrate our mind on the breathing. Then we can concentrate our mind and attain certain kind of concentration. Then we can develop our concentration to the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana, and even higher than that. When we concentrate our mind, then we can practice vipassana. Vipassana means that we can observe what is our sensation, our feeling, what is our thought, and what is the truth of our sensation, of our feeling, of our thought, of our mental formation. Then we understand the truth of anatta. Anatta means non-self. We find that our five aggregates, our body, our sensation, our thinking, our mental formation, our consciousness, are always changing. They are in progress of changing. There is no eternal or unchanged physical body. There is no unchanged sensation or thinking or mental formation or consciousness. These five aggregates are changing all the time. Then we understand that there is no everlasting entity. There is no agent. There is no identity or a changing. This is called wisdom in Buddhism. The moral life consists of three levels. The first level is the practice of moral discipline, or called sila, and then concentration, and then wisdom. And these three levels of moral life is to antidote the three levels of the moral evil activities. Why moral practice begins with the five precepts? Because the five precepts can be easily observed. The five precepts refers to our physical body and speech. They are obvious. They are manifest. We can easily observe them, and we can easily abstain from making the five evils in order to protect ourselves and in order not to harm other people. And we have to understand there is the positive perspective of the five precepts. For example, if we abstain from not killing, then we should practice compassion to protect life, not to kill other living beings. And the second precept is non-stealing. The positive perspective is giving or charity we must give our property, our wisdom, our knowledge to other people. This is the positive perspective of non-stealing and so on. We must follow the positive perspective of the 5 precepts other than develop into the so-called the 10 precepts. Moral guidelines. What is the guideline of our moral life? That is to put ourselves in the foot of other people. That means the exchange of ourselves and other. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is called the exchange of self and other. What does it mean that? If we want to speak to other people or do some action to other people, we have to think in the way of other people. We exchange our position to other people. We don't like other people to harm us. Therefore, we should harm other people. We don't like other people to steal our wealth. Therefore, we should not steal other people's property. We don't like other people to tell lies to us. Therefore, we should not tell lies to other people. This is called the exchange of self and other. It can be called the self-comparison. Compare ourselves in the place of other people. If we dislike something, then we should not do something not liked by other people. If we like something, we should do something other people may like. This is the moral guidelines. The incontrovertible teaching on the practice of moral life. And here we have 3 kinds of principle. The first kind of principle is called self-authority. Self-authority means we discipline ourselves. We want to have a better life. We want to have a better future. Or we want to attain full liberation, full freedom. Therefore, we censor by our own self. This is called the self-authority. Before we speak or before we behave, we have to make sure that our speech, our action will not result in the bad effect to ourselves and other people. This is called the self-authority. The second teaching is called the public authority. The public authority means before we speak or before we behave, we have to consider what other people may think of us. Maybe other people will condemn us. Other people will not disagree to our speech or our action. And we will not be accepted by other people. This is called the public authority. And more important, we have to consider the idea or the thinking of the person of wisdom or the enlightened person, because the enlightened person have the correct view. They understand what should be done or what should not be done. The second principle guideline is called public authority. And then the third principle is called Dharma authority. Dharma authority means if we learn Buddhism, we understand the principle of karma. The karma is the cause of our future effect. And our present situation is the result, the effect of our past karma. This is the principle of karma. Karma authority is the third teaching of the Buddhists on the practice of moral life. When we practice moral life, we have to take these three principles into consideration. The first one is the self-authority. We have to be careful. We have to be aware of our karma, whether which will lead to good result or bad result. The second is public authority. Public authority is the censure by other people. The most important judgment comes from the enlightened person. And the third one is the karma. The karma authority, because the karma is the truth. The karma principle is the truth of our life. Then we come to the chapter 9, pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness is the supreme quest or the highest goal of our life. Every sentient being seeks for happiness. Nobody, no sentient being will like suffering. The pursuit of happiness is the ultimate goal of our practice of Buddhism. Why we learn Buddhism? Why we practice Buddhism? There's only one goal. This goal is happiness. And of course, we want the highest level of happiness, not the low level of happiness. How Buddhism defines happiness? Happiness and morality. The definition of happiness in Buddhism doesn't refer to the sensual desire or the physical happiness. No, the definition of happiness in Buddhism should be connected with morality. If there is no morality, then there is no Buddhism, there is no happiness in Buddhism. And morality consists of the so-called precept, concentration, and wisdom. If there is no precept, then there will be no happiness at all. And at the higher level is, if there is no concentration, there is no happiness at all. If our mind wanders away, if our mind is not steady, is not stable, is not concentrated, then we cannot enjoy the happiness. The highest level of happiness comes from wisdom. The wisdom can help us live the highest level of happiness, because wisdom understands the ultimate truth of our life. Then we follow the ultimate truth. Then we can have the everlasting happiness. The everlasting happiness is called Nibbana. Nibbana means the cessation of our mental defilements, the cessation of the causes of suffering. The causes of suffering are ignorance, hatred, and craving. Therefore, the highest level of happiness is the cessation of our craving, hatred, and ignorance. This can be attained only by the realization of panya, or the wisdom. Buddhism defines happiness with moral life. If there's no moral life, there's no happiness at all. To be happy is to have a mind under one's own control. To be happy. If we are happy, it means that our mind is under our own control. Of course, we say there's no self. How can we say our own control, under our own control? This is the worldly expression, not the supramundane expression. We only take the term of I and the you and the other because we want to communicate with each other. We want to explain the Buddha Dharma. So we have to use the ordinary expression to say under our own control. A man under one's own control means the realization of the moral life. For example, precepts. The precept, if we observe precepts, it means we can control our mind not to kill other sentient beings, not to steal the wealth of other people, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to tell a lie, not to take intoxicants. No, we control our mind. Although we have the sensual desire to have more properties, to have more wealth, but we control our mind. The bad deeds, the bad behaviors, and the speech will result in bad future. So we control our mind and not to offend the precept. And further on, if we practice the so-called samatha, to attain samadhi, it means that we transcend the world of senses. We attain the so-called rupa tatu, rupa maturity. We transcend the level of sensuality, and we attain concentration. The first jhana, second, third, and the fourth jhana, we have the higher level of controlling our mind. But then, when we are in the jhanic state, we can enjoy the happiness, the joy, and even the peace of our mind. And even when we develop wisdom, we understand the truth of our faith aggregates or our personal life under the whole world. Then we can follow the truth. We can control our mind. That is the highest level of happiness. Happiness and mindfulness. Happiness, of course, comes from mindfulness. And mindfulness should define as the right mindfulness. The right mindfulness is the beginning step of the right concentration. A right concentration is the step to right understanding or wisdom. Mindfulness is the very beginning step of happiness. The three poisons that poison happiness, we understand it clearly. The three poisons refer to the craving or the desire, and the second one is the hatred, and the third one is ignorance. Hatred, the most toxic poison. Among these three poisons, hatred is the most dangerous, is the most toxic poison. Why? Craving or desire may result in happiness or indifference, because when we have desire and that we can satisfy our desires, then we will feel happy. So craving or desire may result in happiness because we are satisfied with our desire. And ignorance may result in indifference, because ignorance means doesn't know the truth, cannot make judgment. So the result is indifference. However, hatred is the most toxic poison, because hatred will result in unhappiness. Hatred cannot result in happiness. Hatred can lead to suffering only. Hatred cannot make us happy. When we have hatred, then we are unhappy, and we make other people unhappy. So hatred is more dangerous than craving and ignorance. Loving-kindness, the best antidote for the poison of hatred. Hatred is the most toxic poison. Therefore, we have to develop loving kindness in Theravada Buddhism. Now, the practice of loving kindness is very important. When we do meditation, at the last, we have to practice loving kindness. because hatred is the most toxic poison. We have to end it up. We have to seize, or we have to subdue the hatred. And we have to change the hatred to loving kindness. Loving kindness is called metta empowering. Happiness through the four sublime states. The four sublime states is called Brahmivila. Brahma means pure. Vihara means state. Brahman Vihara. What are the four sublime states? They are called the boundless loving kindness, the boundless compassion, the boundless equanimity, and the boundless of sympathetic joy. Those four are called sublime states, or the Brahma Vihara, the mental state. We should practice these four kinds of sublime states in order to make our mind happy and to develop the loving kindness to others. Mundane happiness refers to the satisfaction of sensual desire. For example, we can take the very delicious food, or we have the healthy body, or we have very good friend. Those are the mundane happiness. And even when we practice meditation and develop concentration, we may have the physical easiness and the mental easiness, and even we develop the joy. It is also called the mundane happiness. And mundane happiness can be called the conditions happiness. The condition that means controlled by other factors. They are not natural. They are not spontaneous happiness, but the happiness comes from other causes and conditions. They are not free. They are not eternal happiness. Advice to householders on how to be happy. There are four advices from the Buddha. The Buddha admonishes how can the householders can have happy life. The first one is effort. We have to make effort in our work, in our job, in our profession, or in our learning, so that we can accumulate our wealth. This is the first advice from the Buddha, effort. And the second advice from the Buddha is protection. When we earn money, when we earn wealth, we have to protect our money. We have to protect our wealth, not to waste. Of course, we can lead a reasonable, comfortable life, but we should not waste our money. This is the second advice. The third advice from the Buddha is good friendship, a good companionship. It means that we should make good friends with good people. We should not make friends with bad people. The bad people will make us waste our life, not only our wealth. We should have good friends. And the last advice from the Buddha is to have a balanced life, the balanced life between our expense and our income. How much we have income, we expend, not more than our income. This is the fourth advice from the Buddha. How the householders to live a happy life. 4 advices from the Buddha. First one, effort. The second one, protection. The third one, good friend. The fourth one, balance, like a balanced life. The balance between income and our expense. The 4 winning ways. The 4 winning ways. The Buddha advised that there are 4 winning ways. The first one is generosity. Generosity means charity. We are generous to share what we have with other people. Then we can feel happy, and other people will feel happy. The second winning way is sweet speech. Not to speak harsh words, not to tell lies. Sweet speech. And the third winning way is willing to help other people, ready to help other people, to help other people free from poverty or ignorance or fear. This is the willingness to help other people. And the fourth winning way is to be impartial to all people. Impartial means to look at other people equally. We should be impartial to other people. All sentient beings are equal. Those are the 4 winning ways to attain happiness. When it comes to levels of happiness, of course, we have different kinds of levels of happiness, from the lowest level of the essential happiness, then comes to the happiness from concentration, from our peaceful mind. And the highest level of happiness is the wisdom. We can attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the cessation of craving, hatred, and ignorance. Nibbana doesn't mean the ending of our life. Doesn't mean the ending of our existence, but the ending, the cessation of our suffering and the causes of suffering. The path to the highest happiness through happiness, the attainment of Nibbana, can be achieved only through happiness. This is a very good advice from the Buddha. We should not practice the self-torture. We should not practice the sensual indulgence. We have to live a happy life. Then we can have healthy body and healthy mind, so that we can practice Sila, concentration, and wisdom in order to attain Nibbana. Therefore, Nibbana is attained only through happiness, not through self-torture. The quest for the highest happiness, the decisive point, the decisive point means the dependent arising. The dependent arising, if we understand the truth of dependent origination, then we can be free from the influence of our body, of our mind, or from the external surroundings or other people. This is the understanding of the dependent arising. Dependent arising can lead us to transcend the worldly life, to live unconditioned life, a free life. The answer, it is happiness. It means, what is the goal of our life? What is the goal of the practice of Buddha Dharma? There's only one answer, that is happiness. Chapter 10, Nimbana, the final goal. Okay. Here, the author tries to describe Nibbana from different viewpoints. The first viewpoint is Nibbana as the third noble truth. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering. The second one, the truth of the causes of suffering. And the third one, third noble truth, is the truth of cessation of suffering. The Buddha says he only talks about suffering, other the cessation of suffering, nothing else. The Buddha doesn't speak of philosophy. He doesn't speak of metaphysics. He only speaks of our life, our present life. He doesn't speak of the past life or the future life, but he only speaks of the present life, the reality of here and now in our five aggregates of body and the mind and the mental formation. And when we have the first truth of suffering and the second truth of causes of suffering, it is naturally we will come to the third noble truth of cessation of suffering. It is the natural consequence of the truth of Nibbana after the causes of suffering. We can understand that Nibbana means the causes, the cessation of the causes of suffering. But the causes of suffering is the three poisons: the craving, the hatred, and the ignorance. Therefore, Nibbana is nothing but the cessation of our craving, hatred, and ignorance. It is not the cessation of our life. This is very important to remember. Nibbana, as cessation of passion, passion means craving. Aversion means hatred, and the delusion means ignorance. This is the second explanation. The third explanation, Nibbana, a cessation of karma. As we mentioned before, that a karma is judged by the mental formation or mental construction or intention to judge whether certain kind of karma is wholesome or unwholesome. Nibbana, a cessation of karma, means Nibbana is the cessation of our unwholesome mental formation. And of course, it is the development of our wholesome mental construction. We can define Nibbana as cessation of suffering. We can define Nibbana as the cessation of the causes of suffering, that's the passion, aversion, and the delusion. And of course, we can define Nibbana as the cessation of karma. Karma here means the mental construction, or we may call it mental formation. And passion, aversion, delusion are nothing but the result of our mental formation. We can also define Nibbana as the highest level of knowledge. Knowledge here means the wisdom or the realization of the truth of our life, the highest level of the realization, the understanding of our life. Nibbana as word transcendence. We should not understand this phrase as we transcend the physical world. No, the word here means the clinging to the entity or the selfness of our five aggregates. Nibbana is defined as the transcendence of the attachment or clinging to the identity of the five aggregates. It means Nibbana is the transcendence of no more ignorance, no more attachment to the idea of selfness. We will call it anatta, the word transcendence, not from the viewpoint of physics, but from the viewpoint of psychology. It is the transcendence of clinging or attachment, no more cling to or attached to the idea of selfness. Then we can define Nibbana also as the one and the only unconditioned experience. This means Nibbana is the total liberation or the total freedom from condition. If we are not conditioned by other factors, it means that if we are not affected by other factors, then we are totally free. We attain Nibbana. We may define also Nibbana as deconstruction. Construction here means the mental construction, or in Pali is called samkhara. Mental construction. Mental construction means actually everything is selfless. However, because of our ignorance, we construct in our mind that there are real physical body, there are real feeling, sensation, there are free thought or free mental construction or true or the real consciousness. This is called the mental construction or mental formation. The deconstruction means to be away from, no more. We no more believe that there is a real physical body. There is an eternal physical body or eternal sensation or thought or mental formation or consciousness. If we practice meditation, then we can realize that nothing is real. Everything is changing. This is called the deconstruction. Deconstruction means no more construct, no more construct the ignorance of clinging to a real life, a real physical body, real sensation, real thinking, a real everlasting mental formation or consciousness, because those five aggregates are dependently originated. They are always changing. They are in the process of changing. Nibbana is defined as deconstruction. No more clinging to or attachment to the idea of entity. Nibbana can be also defined as conceptual non-proliferation. Here, it doesn't mean we cannot have any thought, we cannot have any intention, but it means conceptual proliferation. It means that our mind is wandering all the time, and we have misbelief. There is an eternal life. There is an eternal self. Conceptual non-proliferation means wandering thought. Many different kinds of thoughts appears in our mind, and we have to concentrate and develop our wisdom to understand the truth. Nibbanic experience of freedom from the I concept. Concept means arrogance. Arrogance means actually there's no I. There is no I in our body, no I in our feeling, thought, mental formation, and no I in our consciousness. I means everlasting entity. Actually, everything is emptiness in Mahayana Buddhism. It's called emptiness or shunyata. But because of our ignorance, we generate the idea of self, the idea of atta or atma. This is called the I concept. And the Nibbanic experience means free from the I concept. No more the idea of I no more the idea of self or everlasting entity. We can also define Nibbana as other definition. And then we come to Nibbana and the attainment of cessation. Nibbana can be defined as the attainment of cessation. Here, cessation of passion, aversion, and the delusion. Please remember, Nibbana doesn't mean the cessation of our life, the cessation of entity, because in Buddhism, we don't have the idea of life, of entity, or of self. Nibbana as the immortal, immortal is always mentioned in different kinds of religions. And even in Buddhism, we talk about the immortal. Why Nibbana is defined as the immortal? Because there is no idea of selfness. There is no idea of eternity. There is no idea of spiritual eternalism. Or there is no idea of mental annihilationism. Therefore, if we realize that there is no eternal entity, then we realize immortality. These two are equal. If we have the wisdom to understand that there is no self in our five aggregates, then we realize immortality. Because no I, no self, no everlasting, no eternal identity. This is called immortal. So Nibbana can be defined as the immortal. Because there's no self, there is no I, then Nibbana is immortal. Liberation through wisdom and liberation of mind. Liberation through wisdom is the true liberation. And the liberation of mind is temporary liberation. Liberation of mind means the attainment of the jhana, the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana. Those four kinds of concentration is called liberation of mind. When one attains liberation through wisdom, one may also have the liberation of mind. But when one attains the liberation of mind, one does not necessarily attain the liberation through wisdom, because the liberation through wisdom is higher than the liberation of mind. There are two kinds of arahant. The arahant who attains liberation through wisdom and the liberation of mind, who attains both. And other kind of arahant attains liberation through wisdom, not necessarily from the liberation of mind, because this kind of arahant doesn't attain the jhana states. The two Nibbana elements. The two Nibbana elements means there are two kinds of Nibbana. The first kind of Nibbana is Nibbana with remainder. And the second one is Nibbana without remainder. One attains the Nibbana without remainder first, and then one will attain the Nibbana without remainder. The second Nibbana is also called Pari-Nibbana. Pari means complete. Complete Nibbana or complete liberation. Complete liberation from the clinging or attachment to the idea of eternal entity. One arahant attains first the Nibbana with remainder. It means this kind of arahant may feel pain in physical body, may have unhappy or happy sensation, may have different kinds of wandering thought, but this arahant will not be affected by the remainder elements. And at the time of the passing away of the arahant, he attains Pari-Nibbana. Pari means completement or full or ultimate Nibbana. He attains the Nibbana without remainder. After that, then he may pass away. Therefore, these two kinds of Nibbana should be experienced by an arahant in this life, not after life, not after death, but an arahant attains the Nibbana with reminders first, and then he experiences the Nibbana without remainder. These two kinds of Nibbana are not experienced by death, but it is before death, at the end of an arahant's life. The postmodern condition of one who has attained Nibbana. Postmodern means after death. The after death condition of an attained who has attained Nibbana. One who has attained Nibbana means an arahant or a Tathagata or a Buddha. So this question is, the after death condition of an arahant or a Tathagata or a Buddha. This question is always mentioned by modern scholars, or even in the past time, or even mentioned by the disciples of the Buddha, because people wonder, what will happen to an arahant or to a Buddha or to a Tathagata after they die, After they die, what will happen to them? The curiosity from many people, even from Buddha's disciple. What will happen to you when you pass away? Then, what is the answer from the Buddha? The answer from the Buddha is, this is not an legitimate question. This means that this question is nonsense. Why this question is nonsense? Because Buddha told us in the five aggregates, or in our physical body and in our mind, there is no I, there is no self, there is no eternal entity. If there is no eternal entity, if there is no I in our life, even now we cannot understand. Even now, we can not ask, what is the situation of a Tathagata or a Buddha or an Arahant? Because an Arahant, a Tathagata, a Buddha doesn't identify himself with body, sensation, thought, mental formation, or consciousness. They don't identify themselves with anything. Therefore, we can ask such kind of question. What's the situation of an Arahant? Or what is the after-death condition of an Arahant or a Buddha? Because this is a nonsense question. This is illegitimate question. This kind of question cannot be asked because the Buddha or an Arahant doesn't identify himself with anything. He is free from ignorance. He is free from self-appropriation. He doesn't identify himself with anything. It means that he transcends all the relative standpoint. This is called the middle position. The middle position is the avoidance from eternalism and also nihilism. He's above from any kind of relative idea. Therefore, we cannot ask, where does an Arahant or a Buddha goes after he dies? We cannot ask that. As the Buddha says, when a fire burns out, can you identify where does the fire go? Can the fire go to the east, to the west, or to the north, to the south? No. It is just the ending of the fuel. It is just the cessation of craving, aversion, delusion. Therefore, he's free from any phenomena. We cannot ask, well, an Arahant or a Buddha go after he dies. And of course, we cannot say that he dies because there is no I in their mind. How can we say when there is no one who dies? And even we can say that anyone who lives, but from the secular or the worldly expression, we have to say the Buddha lived, the Buddha passes away. We say the Buddha attains Nibbana. Pari means completement or full, the full Nibbana, that is the complete extinction of the three poisons. It is similar to the fire burning out, no more fuel, therefore no fire, that's all. Okay,